All right, battlers, welcome back to a brand new Pokemon Go video. It's me, Speedy as Chief. I know that I normally don't appear in front of the camera, but it's been so long since I uploaded. I just want to say hi to everybody personally, and thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and watching the videos. I wanted to announce that I've got more videos on the way. I'm getting back into it. If you follow the channel since the beginning, you've noticed that I do participate in the Silph Arena, and I was working on a lot of things competitively. Between that and COVID and everything else that's been happening, I got away from the videos, but I'm going to be coming back pretty strong, so I hope you'll stick around for it. Thank you for watching and subscribing, and everybody who's followed the journey so far. This is actually the Continentals Championships recap for North America. I actually had a really nice run, and I can't wait to share it with you. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the video. I know that the number one reason you're here today is to see these battles, but I just want to go over really briefly the format and how we got here. So the top 8 trainers from the North American Preliminaries moved on to the championship round. I was the 3rd seed, and these seedings were determined based off of your finish in the Continental Preliminary Tournament. So as you can see there up at the top, Holden McNuggets was the number 1 seed, House Stark number 2, myself number 3, so on and so forth. As you can tell, the first column is actually all red. That means that those Pokemon were banned from the draft so that nobody could pick them for their team later on. So if you'll see down at the bottom, Dunebug picks Sableye. Then we have Azumarill going up, Skarmory, Cresselia, Defense Form Deoxys, Altaria, Registeel, and Galarian Stunfisk. All those Pokemon were immediately taken off the board, and you had to kind of go from there to build your team. Starting with Holden McNuggets, he did pick Swampert as his first overall pick, then moving down, House Stark with the Tropius, and then myself with Medicham as my first pick. The picks went kind of down and then back up in a snake kind of format, hence the name Snake Draft, until our entire team was filled out. So I just want to give a little bit of input on my team choices here. I know that I needed a counter user because that's my preferred playstyle, and Medicham was the best one available. It also beat a lot of the other fighters that were involved. Because Altaria and Skarmory were already banned and Noctowl went right before I did, I had to get Golbat to get a flyer. Lapras is a great anti-flyer for my 3rd pick. The 4th pick was Alolan Muck, which was just the best value pick I could possibly get. 5th pick surprised a lot of people. Fortress was something that a lot of trainers overlooked. I needed a steel type, but I didn't want a confusion user, and it turned out big time for me. And the final pick was Bellossom, a sweetheart pick from the Continentals Preliminaries. With that being said, let's get into the championships. Because there are only 8 trainers involved, the Continentals Championships was only 4 rounds. Very, very high stakes battles at every step along the tournament. My first opponent was HumpStyles, and he had probably the perfect team to counter mine. So many threats to what I had, and I was kicking myself for not picking up a Mudboy in the draft because fire was an obvious hole in my team, and a Mudboy would have been so good against Alolan Marowak, a Scavalier, Stunfisk, and Alolan Raichu, but I just did not pick one up. You got to work with what you have, though, at this point in the tournament. So my 2 lead options here are probably Golbat or Lapras. I did find in practice that a lot of my opponents ran Alolan Marowak against me in the lead just because it was such a great generalist against so much of my team. My biggest fear against HumpStyles was facing a double electric line of that Stunfisk and Raichu. I'm very limited on what I can cover in terms of electrics if I don't get Bellossom lined up correctly, so it's going to be really, really tedious to get the leads right. Going into round 1 against HumpStyles, I'm going to lead Lapras with Golbat and my trusty Medicham in the back. Let's see if we can line up that Alolan Marowak lead and win this initial matchup. Out comes Lapras, and there is the Alolan Marowak, exactly what I wanted to see. Going to go ahead and fire off a few Ice Shards here, and HumpStyles is going to be sure to get some energy together on his Alolan Marowak. He knows that it can survive at least 1 Surf, but it doesn't want to take 2, and even though that Shadow Ball is not going to be a super effective attack, it is going to do a ton of damage. He actually shields up that first Silph, which is good for me. I want to get these shields out of the way because HumpStyles' team is actually pretty squishy on the back end. I do correctly shield the Shadow Ball there as well, which is a big play. You definitely don't want to get baited by the Bone Club, which I actually get baited a couple times in really devastating scenarios in round 2. He's going to take that second Silph. We are 1 shield each. I'm expecting a Shadow Ball here, so I definitely want to preserve my switch advantage. I do decide to shield, fire off a few more ice shards here to try to fast move down the Marowak, but he gets to 1 more attack. I know this isn't a Shadow Ball, it's a Bone Club, not a huge deal. Lapras can tank that. And then he makes a really fast switch into Raichu, and you have to pull the trigger immediately to get off that Silph because the Volt Switch is going to erase Lapras if I'm not careful. I actually banked up 2 Silphs, which is even better. Gonna fire off that second one here, and it's gonna take a nice chunk out of Raichu now that the shields are down. Volt Switch does erase Lapras. I have Golbat and Medicham. I'm going to come in here with the Medicham, and as you can tell, these are not hard counter matchups. This is actually really, really tricky to navigate, and in all of my practice, this was probably the hardest opponent that I played against, was when I asked my friends to use HumpStyles' team. We do get to the Ice Punch here against Alolan Raichu, which I think will be enough. That Alolan Marowak is very weak as well, so we are looking pretty good here. It just depends on what his third Pokemon is. HumpStyles, thinking things over, comes in with a Scavalier, and I'm breathing a sigh of relief. Battlers, this is great. This means, oh my god, he does get me on the sack swap here with the Ice Punch, but this means that my Golbat can secure this win for me. It is a very, very hard wall to a Scavalier, so I'm going to swap it in right away. This is actually a great opportunity for me to learn his moveset as well. As you can see, the Mega Horn got fired off, but I'm going to work up to the Shadow Ball here and take game 1 from HumpStyles. Game 2 against HumpStyles, the Shoutcasters were very surprised that I didn't bring Blossom in Game 1, so I'm definitely going to bring it the second time. It is my best wall against the Electrics. Here we go with Golbat, my lead option number 2, and it does encounter that Alolan Marowak again. He's going to swap into that Raichu, and I go right into my Blossom. Blossom's going to be a hard wall here to Raichu, but as you see, this thing is so high-powered, it's going to push this match a lot closer than I'm comfortable with, but we are still going to be able to find a way to preserve switch advantage. He's going to go ahead and fire off a move here, and this one is actually going to be a Grass Knot. Not a huge deal, resisted, grass on grass, but he's got another move, and let's see what this is. Wild Charge comes through, 1 HP and a dream. We are able to KO that Raichu and preserve switch advantage, which is great. I cannot allow that Alolan Marowak to get lined up with anything else on my team because it's going to wall me so hard. Going to go ahead and fire off a Leaf Blade here and put a tiny bit of pressure on Marowak, but Marowak resists that. Not a huge deal at all. At this point, Medicham is not going to be a great play for me. I have to come in here with the Golbat, and it is a game of baits. Which one is going to fire off that Shadow Ball first and KO the other? It reminds me a lot of the Sinister Cup early on in the season. You are holding your breath with every single attack. We go straight for the Shadow Ball there, and it does get shielded. Now, does Marowak fire off a Shadow Ball here? He does not. HumpStyles, ice in his veins, baiting the Bone Club there. He is working up a lot of energy, though, and I think this might be a Shadow Ball. So I double shield, and it's not. Double Bone Club bait. HumpStyles, an extremely talented player. He's also going to make a perfect swap here right when I'm not expecting it. Going to fire a Poison Fang into the Stunfisk, and I come out with my Medicham. Medicham's going to do okay here. I do need to land some Ice Punches, but with the shields down, this is actually a much closer matchup than you might think. We take that first discharge like a boss. He doesn't know that I have Psychic either. I haven't revealed that, so that might help us later in the match against that Alolan Marowak. 2 days before the tournament, I was running Ice Punch, Dynamic Punch, because I felt like Medicham needed a little more oomph to its attack, but the Psychic is going to come through so big for us in this tournament. Just wait and see. Going to go ahead and fire off another Ice Punch here against the Stunfisk. I am hoping that I can KO him here, and it's going to become a question on whether or not Marowak can farm Medicham and get the extra energy to fire off multiple Shadow Balls. He's actually going to go straight for his charge move, though, which is actually really good for us. Any more energy on that Marowak would be even more devastating. So out comes the Golbat here, and my plan right now is just go straight Poison Fang and try to wing attack down. We fire off that first Poison Fang, and he does shield it. HumpStyles just has too much energy though. He is already at another attack, and this one is going to be the Shadow Ball to wrap up this match. Going into a decisive Game 3 against HumpStyles, I am leading that Alolan Muck, and I have my Golbat and Medicham in the back. Alolan Muck into Raichu is actually pretty good for us. Raichu can still win this, especially with a back-to-back Wild Charge, but I'm feeling pretty confident. I knew the Alolan Muck could trap the Raichu or the Marowak, and it could do a lot of different jobs as well. Going to go ahead and fire off the Dark Pulse here to put some pressure on HumpStyles and make him decide, is he going to commit to a charge move, or is he going to try to swap out? Going to get to a second Dark Pulse, but this Raichu is such a high attack stat. He is going to win the CMP and fire off that Wild Charge. Defense is debuffed, and he's going to go for another attack. I only assume this is a second Wild Charge. Going to burn my second shield very early because Switch Advantage is so important in this matchup. Going straight for another Dark Pulse here, and this one is going to go through. Alolan Raichu is off the battlefield, and now it's HumpStyles' move. In comes a Scavalier. These counters are going to be neutral because Alolan Muck is a poison and dark type, so we are able to hang on and get to the Dark Pulse here. I'm feeling pretty confident because Dark Pulse takes a hefty chunk out of a Scavalier, and I do have my Golbat to hard wall it as well. The only question is, what is his third Pokemon, and can we handle it? Going to go ahead and come in here with the Medicham because I think that Medicham with energy is a little more efficient than the Golbat would be in the situation, just in case there's an electric type in the back. He does go for Drill Run. Super big surprise there. In comes the Alolan Marowak, and we're going to work up straight to that Psychic. Hoping for the defense drop. Fingers crossed, battlers. And it does not come through for us. That's okay. We took a good chunk out of this Marowak. I'm going to let him spend his energy here. If this is a Bone Club, I need to make an immediate swap. If it's Shadow Ball, it's just KO'd anyway. Here we go with our Golbat against the Marowak. I know that this Golbat can tank one Shadow Ball at this health range, and we're going to have to do just that. Golbat hanging on strong. I'm going to load up here to a double Poison Fang, not dissimilar from round 2. Going to go ahead and fire this one off, and after this battle, HumpStyles told me he had his finger on the trigger for the sack swap, but it did not go through in time. Firing off that second Poison Fang, we trapped that Marowak. This is going to be GG's, because as soon as that Escavalier comes out, we're going to wing attack it down for the win. Round 2 opponent, House Stark, one of the best players in the entire world, a fierce competitor that nobody wants to see on the battlefield. These matches are insane. House Stark is packing Mew, Beedrill, Dugong, Tropius, Vigoroth, and Whiscash. This team looks like a freestyle team. House Stark really had his way in the draft, picking a lot of Pokemon that he was extremely comfortable with and that he uses very, very well. Now, the only thing here is that most of his Pokemon will not do well against Medicham. Considering the Tropius, you do need to spend shields, but the Vigoroth, the Dugong, and the Whiscash are all not going to like that counter damage. He does have 2 excellent answers for Medicham, though, in his Mew and his Beedrill. Mew is always a question. Nobody knows what the moveset is. It is a Swiss Army knife guaranteed to grab shields off your opponent. So for this matchup, I have to be very, very careful about it. Gotta lure out the Vigoroth, line it up with Medicham, and then hope I can close out strong. Going to game 1 against Stark, we lead Medicham. We've got Golbat and Lapras. We are praying for that Vigoroth lead, battlers. Let's see what we get. Vigoroth comes out, and we are feeling good. Stark going to make an immediate swap here into his Whiscash. I've got a great answer here with Lapras as well. Going to go straight for the Surf here early on, possibly an opportunity there to work up to the Skull Bash and bluff. You always want to work up to the big energy move and then bluff, but I just want this Whiscash off the battlefield as quickly as possible. It is very important that we maintain switch advantage here because I want that Medicham to line up with that Vigoroth in just a few moments. Whiscash getting to another mud bomb. This is not a good scenario for Stark here. He might have to double shield to have any chance of flipping this back and gaining switch advantage. Gonna go straight for a surf here. I've got a little extra energy from those ice shards, so I'm not too far away from a second one. He gets to another mud bomb though, and I am forced to shield in this situation. So Stark spent his shield, I'm going to spend a shield here as well, and I'm going to try to get to this surf as quickly as possible, and we were able to pull that trigger before he gets to the mud bomb. Stark deciding not to shield there. He's going to opt to come in with his Vigoroth and get some energy together. Even though Vigoroth's body slams are not going to be super effective against Medicham, they still do quite a bit of damage over time. My fingers are crossed that my Golbat can handle the Mew or the Beedrill or the Tropius, whatever he has in the back. Finger on the trigger, here comes Golbat into Mew. No clue what this thing's movesets are. Gonna try to work up here to the Shadow Ball and go straight for it. We are playing to win, going very aggressively here. Stark is going to shield that first attack. Not good for us. That puts us at a big disadvantage in terms of energy. I don't know what move this is, so I'm going to go ahead and not shield, but it's a Psyshock. Super effective against poison type Golbat. We are unable to pull the trigger on the Poison Fang, and suddenly this is looking really bad for us. Gonna go ahead and shield up here. It will be the Psyshock. Even though Medicham is part Psychic, it is also a fighting type, so that Psyshock would do quite a bit of damage if it goes unshielded. Gonna land the Ice Punch here, but these counters are resisted by Mew. He gets to one more charge attack here, and this will be yet another Psyshock, taking Medicham deep into the red, and how Stark is going to come away with game 1. Going to game 2, I'm going to lead Medicham with my Blossom and Lapras in the back. I don't expect Stark to lead his Vigoroth in round 2. I just need to lure it out, and I'm going to use Blossom to do it. So here comes that Mew lead. We lose this really badly, so I get a counter and I dip. In comes that Vigoroth, and in very fast succession, we have a totally different matchup on our hands. This Blossom is going to be quite bulky against Vigoroth in most scenarios here, but I am packing that Leaf Blade and the Dazzling Gleam. Gonna go straight for Dazzling Gleam here to take a nice chunk out of Vigoroth. How Stark is actually going to shield that up. He does not want to lose switch advantage and be at a disadvantage later on in the match, but this is actually exactly what I want him to do. He's going to body slam that Blossom. I'm going to wait down the switch timer for just a few seconds to give myself more flexibility in case I want to swap in a minute. Out comes the Medicham, and we are in Farm City. I project that I can survive probably 2 body slams from this Vigoroth, and we're going to try to pull the trigger here and KO it before he gets to a second one, and that is just great news for us. Stark is going to come right back in with his Mew as we expected. Going to go straight for these Ice Punches here and try to add up as much damage as possible. Things don't look really great. This is still anybody's matchup, and it really depends on what Stark has in the back here. Gonna go ahead and try to work up to another Ice Punch. We both encounter lag, but we catch up, and I'm gonna fire off this third Ice Punch. Forcing that final shield out of Mew, I am up 2 shields to 0, and this is actually not a bad situation for us. Gonna swap in Lapras to avoid any additional farming on my Medicham, and I'm gonna shield up that Wild Charge. It would have taken a huge chunk out of us. Out comes Whiscash. This is looking really good for us battlers. I'm gonna try to work up here to the Skull Bash and buff my defense so that I can take down that Mew when it comes back out. This will not KO Whiscash, but it will take a nice chunk out of that Mudboy. I'm going to try to Ice Shard down here and be very conservative with my shield and my energy. I don't know how much energy that Mew has, but I need to be able to survive long enough to line it back up with the Lapras and fire off the Surf. One more Mud Bomb, and we are walking closer and closer to the cliff's edge. Going to try and survive this, and we do. Ice Shard down the Whiscash. Out comes the Mew. CMP tie. Mew is going to win that with the higher attack stat, but I had that Surf loaded. Shield up the Psyshock, going straight for the Surf here, and we're going to claim game 2. Game 3 against House Stark, everything is on the line. Medicham, Fortress, and Lapras. I'm going to lead that Medicham for the third time. Out comes Whiscash. This is not a bad deal for us, but we want that Vigoroth out of the way, and I know that it's on this team. I just have this feeling deep in my gut. Going to go straight for the Ice Punch here against the Whiscash to try to pile on a little bit of damage early on. Stark is working up quite a bit of energy. I'm going to time this swap to try to catch a Mud Bomb, and guess what, battlers? This is a Blizzard. Catching Blizzard on double resisted Water Ice Lapras. Big brain plays I didn't even know I was making. Here comes that Vigoroth here, and these counters are going to add up. But we wanted the Vigoroth out, and we want enough health on it to let Medicham farm, so I'm actually not going to go for a Skull Bash here, instead opting for the Surf. Stark is not going to shield that, calling my bait, trying to get to one more Surf, and that is perfectly okay. I know Medicham can survive at least a couple of these body slams, as we've seen in the past couple of matches, so I'm not very worried about it. Vigoroth going to offload this energy onto Medicham, and I am not going to burn a shield. Going to hold strong here with the counters, and we're able to KO that Vigoroth before we got to another body slam. Stark is going to come in here with Mew. I'm going to go straight for the Ice Punch here. He just revealed his third Pokemon, and we got that Fortress. Fortress is a Bug Steel type that eats up Psychic type Pokemon. In comes Whiscash, and these Mud Bombs are actually not going to do as much as you would think to this Steel type Pokemon. Going to go ahead and absorb this first one here. Fortress holding strong, firing off these Bug Bites here. Going to go straight for a Mirror Shot after I work up to the Earthquake. And Whiscash is going to tank that, but its attack falls. Great situation for us. It means we can definitely survive the second Mud Bomb and save both of our shields for the Mew. Going to go ahead and continue to Bug Bite here, and Fortress is just so extremely oppressive. Going to go straight for another Mirror Shot here to try to lower this Mew's attack, and we are going to try to eat this thing alive. Mew's Shadow Claws are adding up, but our Bug Bites are as well. This is a race to the finish, a race to KO each other with our fast moves. Fortress is putting in so much work with these Bug Bites, trying to eat up the Mew, and we don't quite get there, but I've got a Medicham with 2 shields, and we counter down for the win. My round 3 opponent is Dunebug, an extremely high-powered team, 100 different ways to attack you, and only 1 or 2 ways to beat him. He does have Mantine, Bastiodon, Gallade, Frostlass, Obstagoon, and Charizard. When you look at this team, there's so many angles. If you are out of shields, you are out of luck. He's going to just burst through your defenses and just destroy you and leave just destruction in his wake. I actually had a really good friend practice with me quite a bit with Dunebug's team, and I messaged him the day before the tournament, and I said, how do I beat Dunebug? He replied with 2 words. He says, you can't. And then he listed off all the different things that need to line up perfectly for me to even have a chance against Dunebug here, and it was just too crazy to count. So when I saw that I was paired against Dunebug in the 3rd round of the North American Continentals Championships, I sound pretty scared. So going into this match, let's see what we can do. I'm going to lead with that Medicham, and I'm going to rock an Alolan Muck and Lapras Core against my opponent here. Going into game 1 against Dunebug, going to lead that Medicham into Gallade. Gallade was a darling from Continentals last year. Here comes the Obstagoon into my Lapras, and I'm going to get countered down, but this is all part of the plan, battlers. Just like we were luring out the Vigoroth against House Stark, I wanted this Obstagoon out on the battlefield so that my Medicham could take advantage. Going to work up to the Skull Bash here and opt to fire off the Surf. Dunebug is holding strong. He's not going to shield here, but I get to a second Surf. If he does not shield here, I believe I win back switch advantage, and he does not want that. He wants Gallade on Medicham, so he is going to burn his first shield. I'm going to wait down that switch timer for just a few seconds and then come in here with Medicham. Medicham is a fighting psychic type, just like Gallade, so it will take neutral from these Night Slashes. Not a huge deal. Going to try to get some energy together and see what I can do later on in the battle. We are up 2 shields, and the main thing about this Dunebug team is you do not want to be down on shields. He is going to rip through your team if you are not prepared. We take a couple of Night Slashes, but bring down Obstagoon, and I am furiously tapping on the screen, trying to get Medicham out of there and Muck onto the battlefield. Here comes Gallade, out comes Muck. He elects to stay in. He's gathering a ton of energy, but I do not want him to feel very comfortable, so I'm going to go straight for a Dark Pulse here to put some pressure on Gallade. He does not shield, taking a huge chunk out of Gallade. He's only got 1 shield left. Out comes Charizard. That is the only caveat to this Dunebug squad. It hits so hard, but you need those shields because his Pokemon are not very thick. Gonna go ahead and shield up that Dragon Claw. Gonna try to work up to 2 Dark Pulses here, and we pull the trigger, but Charizard wins CMP. Going to be forced to shield up here against a second Dragon Claw, but these Dark Pulses are going to hit super hard against something like a Charizard. Going to fire this first one off, and I don't think it KOs, but we were able to work it so deep into the red that we farmed down. We get the final Dark Pulse off. This is going to draw Dunebug's final shield. I'm going to swap into Medicham, and in the middle of his confusion, I get a counter and an Ice Punch, and we're going to try to wrap up this game with a nice, shiny bow. Going to round 2 against Dunebug, Medicham with that Muck and Lapras core again. Medicham leaded to Bastiodon. This is exactly what we want to see. Great lead for us. Here he comes with his Frostlass, and I go straight into Alolan Muck. Now, with the current state of the game, ever since the Jesus exploit, Snarl being a 3-turn move, Powder Snow being a 2-turn move, there are situations where you can get extra energy in between different attacks. For example, right after a charge move, you can fire off an attack, and you can gain up some extra energy while your opponent is paused, and the turns aren't quite lining up yet, so it takes a moment for your opponent to get back in sync with you. That's exactly what we're going to do here. Going to try to get some energy together and force this Frostlass into a 2 shields matchup. Going to go ahead and fire for Dark Pulse here. I'm only 1 Snarl away from a second Dark Pulse, and I know that second one will KO. He is going to shield up my first Dark Pulse, and I get to this one here, but he drops an Avalanche on me. Can we survive it, battlers? We survive it, 1 HP and a dream, pulling off the Dark Pulse to keep switch advantage and line up that Medicham with the Bastiodon just like we wanted to. Dunebug decides to bring in Charizard here. I've got Lapras, which is a beautiful counter, and this match is basically rock, paper, scissors now. Charizard is still deadly. Even though this Lapras is a water type, it is going to take a huge chunk of life with the Blast Burn. Anticipating this swap, here comes the Bastiodon. I'm going to do my best to just farm straight down on this Bastiodon, and because that Charizard just unleashed the Blast Burn on the Lapras, I know it doesn't have any energy, so I can win if I can fire off a Psychic as soon as that Charizard comes back in. We counter all the way down, maxing out at 100 energy and going over. Here comes that Charizard, and we go straight for an Ice Punch, but I don't think the Ice Punch is enough, so we might have to cap this off with one more move. And we have the Psychic already ready to go. Pulling off a win against Dunebug was almost statistically impossible. The guy's team was so perfect, it attacked mine in so many different ways, everything had to line up so perfectly, and just that that round 3 win over Dunebug was so crazy. He fell to the losers bracket, but guess what? He kept on winning. He won 2 more rounds in the losers bracket to rise back up into the championship round. I am 3-0 going into my 4th match, and I encounter Dunebug yet again. Let's see how these matches go in the championships. This is the championship bout, and this is a high-risk play. I'm going to lead Fortress with the Alolan Muck and Lapras in the back. As long as it's not Charizard, we have a fighting chance, and it's Gallade. Gallade going up against Fortress here. Going to go ahead and fire up these Bug Bites. Even though it is a part fighter, it does take neutral damage because those Bug Bites are super effective against the Psychic typing. Going to go ahead and fire off a Mirror Shot here. and he lets it through. Nobody likes shielding mirror shots, but it does chip away at you deceptively. Gotta call this right now, close combat or leaf blade, and I call leaf blade. I kind of budget in my mind to absorb one charge move here, and I'm expecting this to be a close combat, so I am going to burn my first shield, but we are going to win switch priority. Doomebug is going to think things over, and this is the first good sign that I get that he's not immediately bringing in his Charizard. That means he must not have it on his team, and he must be thinking of other ways to try to get around this fortress. Going to go ahead and fire off a mirror shot here against that Frostlass, and it does drop that Pokemon stats. Going to go ahead and fire off a second mirror shot here, and as you can tell, that steel type attack is actually super effective against ice type Frostlass, forcing Doomebug to shield that second one. We're going to hang in here and fire off these mirror shots as long as we want, just because we've already worked this Frostlass down so low. He goes for Avalanche, resisted by Steel type Fortress. We get to one more mirror shot here, and Fortress has put in so much work. I put him at the front of the battle formation, and he is just really pulling his weight in so many ways. This Frostlass does have a lot of energy, but I do have my Lapras and my Alola Muck. The only question is, what does he have in the back? Out comes Obstagoon. This is not a good situation because these counters are going to be super effective against Lapras, and Obstagoon does okay against Muck as well. My plan here is to go straight for that Skull Bash, buff this Lapras' defense, take this Obstagoon as far into the battle as I possibly can, and then see what we can do with Muck in the very end. Skull Bash lands, taking a huge chunk out of Obstagoon, and we were able to fire off even more Ice Shards here, forcing Doomebug to use his energy on an attack against the Lapras. Going to bring in the Muck here, my last Pokemon. We erase that Obstagoon, and these Snarls are going to do good work for us. Frostlass does have a ton of energy. Muck can tank one Avalanche, but not more. So I'm going to let that first one through, fire off a couple of Snarls here, or excuse me, just one Snarl, but he's actually able to get to another Avalanche, so we have to shield this. This means he's pretty close to zero energy, though, so we Snarl down for the win. Round 2, Medicham, Alola Muck, and Lapras. Let's see if we can bring home the North American Continentals Championship trophy. Medicham into Bastiodon. Let's go. This is exactly what we want to see, battlers. He is going to make an immediate swap out of that Bastiodon right into his Frostlass, and I pull the trigger with Alolan Muck. If you were getting deja vu, you are not alone. This is the same exact line that we played with the first time around. I'm actually going to shield up this first Avalanche here from the Frostlass and fire off these Snarls here. Trying to push up to 2 Dark Pulses here. Going to go just like we did before. One Snarl away from the second Dark Pulse. Going to fire this one off, take that first shield from the Frostlass, and continue to gain energy. Doombug is also racing ahead with energy. Doombug gets to a second Avalanche, and we are going to have to shield that up if we are going to have any chance of winning this matchup. Again, trying to gain energy with these Snarls. We are up to 2 Dark Pulses. I'm going to pull the trigger on this first one here, and this will definitely catch Doombug's final shield. And we go back to back, another Dark Pulse while that Powder Snow is being triggered, and we are going to take down this Frostlass. We have one switch priority. We did not have to tank an Avalanche to do that because Doombug held on to his energy for just a second too long and is going to put us in a great position to bring this home. Going to go ahead and fire off a Dark Pulse here against the Bastiodon, not wanting to switch out and put my Medicham in a position where it might be lined up with something else that I don't want it to face. If he's got a Mantine in the back or something like that, that is going to really clap my Medicham, and I have to maintain switch advantage. So even though Bastiodon is gaining a ton of energy, I cannot afford to swap out. He swaps into Gallade. Gallade getting an extra confusion worth of energy, which puts me in a very tricky position. He has so many high-level strats, it's just really crazy. Going to come in here with the Medicham and work up to the Psychic and fire this off. Psychic is going to take a huge chunk out of Gallade, being a fighting and Psychic-type Pokemon. Immediate swap here into Lapras, but I can't quite pull it off. Medicham is going to tank this Leaf Blade, go right into Lapras here. In the middle of those confusions, we Ice Shard down to KO, and his last Pokemon is that Bastiodon with tons of energy. He's going to go ahead and fire off a Stone Edge here, which will be super effective against the Lapras. but it is not enough to KO. We get to that serve, and we did it. We pull off the North American Continentals Championship game against Dunebug, and we win it all. Battlers, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a look at the bracket and the wins and losses along the way. So many insane competitors, and in this kind of format, you just never know who you're going to play, so you have to prepare for everybody, and it was just a crazy experience. Probably the best, no, definitely the best experience I've had in the Silph Arena, and every single match, I did not have an inkling of whether I would win or lose. I just wanted to represent well and just carry gratitude into every game, and that's exactly what we did. So again, Battlers, thank you so much for watching this. This is my first video back. Lots more videos on the way. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you like this. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought, and you can expect many more videos coming very soon.